Chapter 8, Part 5, Emotion. Emotion is a complex psychological state that involves subjective experience, a physiological response, and a behavioral or expressive response. Functions of emotion. Emotions can move us to act, triggering motivated behavior. Emotions help us set goals, but emotional states can also be goals in themselves. Emotions are important in many different areas, including rational decision-making, purposeful behavior, and setting appropriate goals. Emotional intelligence is the capacity to understand and manage your own emotional experiences and to perceive, comprehend, and respond appropriately to the emotional responses of others. Charles Darwin was one of the earliest scientists to systematically study emotions and their expression. He argued that emotions reflect evolutionary adaptations to the problems of survival and reproduction. Today's evolutionary psychologists believe that the emotions are the product of evolution and that they help us solve adaptive problems posed by our environment. The subjective experience of emotion. There are a limited number of basic emotions that all humans experience. They are thought to be biologically determined. The basic emotions are fear, surprise, anger, disgust, happiness, and sadness. People often experience a blend of emotions. In more complex situations, they may experience mixed emotions. Research findings suggest that men and women differ little in the experience of emotions, but they do differ in the expression of emotions. Women are more easily express their emotions, think about emotions, and recall emotional experiences. The neuroscience of emotion. Emotion and the sympathetic nervous system. When you are threatened, the sympathetic nervous system triggers the fight or flight response, a rapidly occurring series of automatic physical reactions. The sympathetic nervous system is also activated by other intense emotions, such as excitement, passionate love, or extreme joy. Studies have found that there are differing patterns of physiological arousal for different emotions. The emotional brain, fear, and the amygdala. Studies have shown that the amygdala, an almond-shaped cluster of neurons in the limbic system in the brain's temporal lobe, is a key brain structure in the emotional response of fear in humans. When a person is faced with a potentially threatening stimulus, the visual stimulus is first routed to the thalamus. The information is then relayed simultaneously along two neural pathways: the direct thalamus-amygdala pathway, which triggers the brain's alarm system, and the thalamus-cortex-amygdala pathway. If the cortex determines that a threat exists, the information is relayed to the amygdala along the longer, slower pathway. The amygdala then sends information along two pathways. One pathway leads to an area of the hypothalamus, then on to the medulla. Together, they trigger arousal of the sympathetic nervous system. Another pathway leads to a different hypothalamus area that, in concert with the pituitary gland, triggers the release of stress hormones. Joseph Ledoux believes that the direct thalamus-amygdala connection represents an adaptive response that has been hardwired by evolution in the human brain. The indirect route allows more complex stimuli to be evaluated in the cortex. The expression of emotion. Psychologists Paul Ekman and Walter Friesen coded different facial expressions by painstakingly analyzing the facial muscles involved in producing each facial expression. They have found that people from many different cultures, even remote ones, accurately recognize the basic emotions expressed in photographs of facial expressions. Display rules are social and cultural regulations governing emotional expression, especially facial expressions. Display rules vary across cultures and for different groups within a given culture. Anthropomorphism is the attribution of human traits, motives, emotions, or behaviors to non-human animals or inanimate objects. Animals clearly demonstrate diverse emotions: fear, anger, surprise. But to understand how they subjectively experience such feelings raises questions that cannot be fully answered at this time. This is this end of this part.